here with another Cold Blast. It's been a minute, but I'm joined today by the wonderful Lou Kummer as well as the wonderful Brendan Heckler.
I'm back.
We're back. It's
So
been a
is
minute
Lou.
for you
We're
as well.
back. Yeah.
We're all back.
So today we are doing M&P wiring part dos, outdoor units with a 3-board setup, which is like speaking French to me, but Lou's going to explain it all for you. So without further ado, thanks for joining us, Lou.
No problem.
Take it away, Lou.
Okay, so basically the first cold blast we did was the M&P wiring. So you kind of want to refer back to that before you come to this one. This is like part 2, as Mary Beth said. So where we ended is like determining if you have a problem with the outdoor unit with power or a communication problem with the indoor unit or the wire. So at that point we ended with, now Mitsubishi uses one board on 18,000 BTUs and less. So where we ended it was, okay, if we didn't have that 24 volts DC coming out of the outdoor board, you got to change the board. There's only one board to change, so there's no other decisions to be made. Now with the 24, like the P series 24,000 or M series 24,000 and up, and MXZs, they use a different style in the outdoor unit with the boards, and they actually have up to 3 boards. Now traditional Mitsubishis up until the last couple years have always had 3 boards. Now they kind of went down to a 2 board in the bigger units, which is still the same. The troubleshooting will be the same if you have a 3 board or a 2 board system. So the traditional 3 board system, what is that? So we have 3 parts of a Mitsubishi power system. So we have our first section, and this is also even on the big 1 board, we have a noise filter section. And that's exactly what it means. What it does is it takes the voltage that you're supplying and cleans it up, and it just cleans the voltage but doesn't change it. So that's going to be the first board. So real easy troubleshooting on that. We got 208, 230 coming into it. We should have 208, 230 coming out of it.
And is that how you identify that board, Lou? By the voltage coming in and voltage coming out, or is there a code on there?
Yeah, well, the board itself, you'll notice that if you follow the wiring, it will go to your L1, L2 power connections.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it is, like the power board, which would be the next board we talk about, is very obvious in the PC board itself. So the noise filter kind of looks like a power board, but it's not as robust.
Gotcha.
The power board itself is the one that takes the brunt of changing the power to different voltages, to DC voltage from AC voltage. So it's going to be pretty obvious. It's going to have a lot of capacitors on it, like big style capacitors. Right. And there's going to be the thing you always identify it with. It's going to have a heat sink on it. Okay. Now, heat sink is simply if you have like say you got some big bass in your car and you put a power amp in it. That amplifier has all those aluminum fins to dissipate heat. That's exactly what a heat sink looks like. But it is separate from the board. The board actually attaches to it. Generally, you'll see it facing the outdoor fan, because the outdoor fan will actually assist in cooling it down when it's running. So like I said, first board, noise filter board. All we're doing is taking voltage and cleaning it and then sending it to the power board. No change in voltage. So voltage in, voltage out. If we have the voltage coming out of that, our noise filter board is fine. So the next step of this is the power board. The power board takes the AC voltage that we just cleaned, and it changes it. One thing it does is it changes it to DC voltage. And DC voltage we use for our condenser fan motor, and it also supplies the DC voltage to the PC board, which we'll talk about next. The power board also has the inverter section, which makes our compressor, makes the power supply for our compressor, which is variable speed. What I mean by variable speed is just like the gas pedal in your car. The compressor can go real slow if you just put a little bit of gas on it, and if you crank it down, it'll go real fast. So the power board actually is what makes that power. It's 3-phase AC, and it's modulating. So we'll talk more about that later. Actually, in another podcast, we'll even get deeper into that.
Ooh, teaser.
Ooh, dun, dun, dun.
Teaser alert. So After we leave the power board, the other board left is the one you're always going to be able to see when you open the unit up. That's the first board you're going to see, and that's the PC board. Now, the PC board is responsible for taking all the information from our thermistors, which take temperature readings and so forth from different points of the system, and also controls our expansion valve and such.
So is this PC board kind of like the brains of the system, if you will?
Yeah, brains of the system.
Gotcha.
Exactly. So what it does is, so when we're talking about the S1, S2, S3 from the very first podcast. So now that 24 volts DC, let's fast forward. We know about the 3 boards. Now we come up to the job. We found out that our wire was good going to the indoor unit. Our indoor unit was good. We don't have the 24 volts at the outside board. I have 3 boards, so it's not like, okay, I just change one board and I'm done. So the defining point on figuring out if it's the PC board or if it's the power board or noise filter board is there's a plug called CNDC on the PC board. It comes from the power board. Now, what that plug, the way I always identify it on the phone is it's usually on the left side of the PC board, and it's a hot pink color. So the actual color of the plug is pink. So just look for that plug, and that is where the DC voltage comes from the power board to the PC board. So if you take a voltage reading there, it's going to be DC volts, and it's going to be about 300 volts. It could be plus or minus. It could be up to 320, it could be down to 280, but it's
that
going to be
range.
somewhere.
You want that high range.
Yeah, it's going to be in that range. So that voltage, if you get that 283 or 300 volts DC there, when you take a reading, now you have to take a reading at the plug. So some guys will say, okay, take the plug off. If you take the plug off, you're going to have to take the voltage at the plug. And caution, if you plug that plug back in onto the PC board while there's power, that's a DC, that's a high voltage DC line. It's going to arc, and you're probably going to do damage you didn't already have. So do not, if you unplug that plug, do not plug it back in until you power the unit down for a few minutes and bleed off that DC voltage. So we get the voltage, let's say we have the 300 volts DC. That's flat out a bad PC board because we have the DC volts coming to the PC board, but we do not have the 24 volts DC for communication for our indoor unit. If we don't have the power at the pink plug, the PC board is fine, and we have a bad power board or noise filter board. Because remember I said about the noise filter board, it's voltage in, voltage out. So if I get that, so if I look at the outputs on the noise filter board and I have the 28230 going to the power board, and I do not get the DC voltage to the pink plug at the PC board, then I have a bad power board.
Gotcha.
Now, if I don't have any voltage coming from the noise filter board, we got a bad noise filter board. And more than likely, there's going to be a fuse blown that is not removable. It's soldered on. And if that noise filter board's bad, you're going to have to change the noise filter and the power board.
Gotcha. Because
the power board usually shorted or had some kind of an event that
actually was just carried on through the process. Gotcha.
But if you do have the voltage out of the noise filter board, that's clean. So you have a clean PC board, you have a clean noise filter board, and you just got to change the power board. And this is gonna include all your P series units, all your MXZs are gonna have this set up, and MM series over 24,000 BTUs. Now, just real quick before we exit on this, current units are now going to a 2-board setup. And what the 2-board setup is, PC board, like we just talked about, and all they're doing now is combining the noise filter board and the power board together in one piece. Oh,
that's convenient, yeah.
So still same testing, that pink plug, but if you have the 2-board set up, you're changing the noise filter power board all at once because it's one piece.
Gotcha. Cool.
And that's it.
Perfect. Thanks, Lou.
No problem.